Hello, everybody, and welcome to Late Night Football Champions League Match Day 6, first day of 2 days of action. And the big news, obviously, is RB Leipzig 3, Manchester United 2. Manchester United going out of the Champions League after a really bad performance in the game. And I'm smiling, but actually, I'm not. I was pretty upset watching it, but. I've had a bit of time to digest it, a bit of time to try to analyze it, a bit of time to read what other people have been saying about the game, what other people have been talking about the game. Because I wanted to see what was going on. I wanted to calm down because sometimes in situations like this, you tend to be emotional, you tend to be heated, and that's great and that's good. But sometimes you just need to take a step back and analyze what happened. And a lot went wrong. I think everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and there's a lot of blame to go around. I think you cannot escape it. There's no excuses for this. I think there's a lot of blame to go around. And when I heard the news that Luke Shaw was fit, I was like, he's gonna play back five. I mean, always gonna play back five. I kind of knew it, and that's okay to play back five against Leipzig. I thought that's okay as long as it's because I thought at one point I thought he might play Tuanzebe as a third center half, but then I was like, well, Luke Shaw's fit, so he's gonna play Luke Shaw, and he's gonna play back five. He's gonna do it. Even though I would have probably played diamond. But that's fine if you play back five. The issue was in midfield. I think if you're going to play Matic and McTominay, you're basically telling the opposition, guess what? We're playing seven defenders today. All you want to do is we want you to come onto us. Try and get a goal. Come here. Let's get a goal. And it doesn't work. And I would have played Matic if he was going to play back five. I would have played McTominay and Van de Beek. I probably would not have played Matic, even though Matic played well today, according to some. I would have played McTominay and Van de Beek just because Van de Beek gives you that creativity, but he also gives you that security in defense that Matic or McTominay. Matic does not give you much in offense, and he's a little bit doesn't give you that energy. So I'd probably go McTominay and Van de Beek, but or Matic and Van de Beek really doesn't matter. But you have to put Donny in that team to start with, because if you're going to play seven defenders, you're basically telling the opposition, guess what? You give away your tactics pretty much. And It was worst possible start. Second minute, they score a goal, and I mean, again, it's baffling how Angelino. Now, this is Angelino, by the way. This is the same guy who last season was made to look like a complete incompetent left back by Manchester United. The same Manchester United team last season, just over a year ago, when they played City. I believe that was at the Etihad. They played at the Etihad, and Angelino looked completely out of his depth in that game. And United, made mugs of him. And then this game, he comes here, he scores a goal. Looks like taking Marcos Alonso or someone like that. Like he's like a marauding left wing back scoring goals like Roberto Carlos comes to mind. Like he's basically looking like that. Completely unmarked on that side, just cuts in. Wan-Bissaka, once again sucked in, tucked in towards that center post for whatever reason, and just goes and scores a goal. And then because one warning is not enough, so they do that again. They repeat that again. This time, Angelino crossing it, and Maguire getting beaten for whatever reason. Telles is whatever's going on between those guys, and then it's a free header for Hadar to score, and he gets the goal 2-0 up. And I thought and that's okay. It was a mistake that he made, and that's fine. You make mistakes. I think that's where the blame, that's where, to me, that's where the frustration starts, because everybody makes mistakes, and big games generally become magnified and you make mistakes, and that's fine. He had 70 minutes to change it, what I would have done is, this is not FIFA. This isn't FIFA where oh, I'll wait to the halftime, because it's there's not much. This is real life. This is real tactics. What you do is you immediately take off. I would have taken off two players. I've taken a Shaw. I would have taken a Matic, right, or McTominay, and depending on who you prefer. I would have taken off Shaw and Matic, and I would have switched to a four. I would have brought on Donny van der Beek. I know people are a little bit upset with him, but I would have brought on Pogba. If he's on the bench, you bring him on. Or bring on Daniel James if you want to. But basically, switch it up. You basically want to go. I would have gone 4-3-3. At that point, go to a 4-3-3 diamond, and play the formation that actually worked for you in the last game, and try and make that work, because now you need to get goals. So you can only have one CDM. You can't really, there's no point having two CDMs because you're already 2-0 down anyway. So you do that, or you bring on Daniel James and go to a 4-2-3-1 with James obviously playing as a left midfielder, and you've got McTominay, Van de Beek, and Bruno as your 1-2-3. So that those, you need to be proactive. You need to make those changes if you're going to be a manager of Manchester United, if you're going to be someone who's going to be taking, you've got to be willing to take risks. And I think basically what happened, I think he was self-shocked a little bit. I think, and I do believe, and I will talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a bit, but I just felt like he was a little bit passive today. He was very passive, not a little bit, he was very passive today. And for whatever reason, he just didn't want to change it at that point. He lets it go to the 45th minute, doesn't make changes. I mean, what at 2-0, what's going to happen, right? You're not, if United had somehow managed to beat Istanbul in that game earlier, there is something to be said there, and that is a big problem. But we'll talk about it. But then if there was any reason where it was going to come to head and United had this 5-goal cushion, so 2-0 doesn't matter, then that's fine, right? If they had beaten Istanbul, then losing 2-0 would not have mattered because they would have gotten through on head-to-head with Leipzig. But there you go, that didn't happen. So at 2-0 down, what are you waiting for? What is your reasoning to not change it when it's clearly not working, right? The idea was to get a 0-0, maybe nick a goal here, nick a goal there, or maybe try and keep it to 0-0 up to the 60th, 70th minute, and then try and go on the attack when you're going up against tired limbs. But at 2-0 down, what more do you need to make changes, right? And he didn't. And I think he might have made the small change of changing it to a 4-2-3-1 with the Telles playing as the left winger, but that doesn't work. Telles is I think a lot of people get carried away with Telles' crossing ability. He's a very good crosser for a left back. He's probably a decent average crosser for a left winger. A lot of wingers don't cross these days, so his crossing looks a little bit better than it actually is because a lot of wingers don't cross. But even with a crosser, the problem is Rashford isn't a good header of the ball. Greenwood isn't a good header of the ball. Bruno, he's not someone who's going to win headers. He's probably going to get you a free header. He can score. He can rush in it in the box and score goals. But Telles' crosses don't generally lend themselves to that. So you've got three players who can't really, head a ball. So what's the point of playing him as a left wing and expecting him to crosses in when there's nobody who's going to win them? So it was just baffling the way that the things were going. But he changed it at the start of the second half. He takes off Telles. He takes off. He took off Telles, I believe, and brought on Donny van de Beek. I don't know what that. Again, fair enough. If you want to do that, you want to take off Telles. Maybe in his mind he thought the game was already lost. But if you really want to attack and win a game, you're leaving Luke Shaw on for whatever reason. It was just stupidity. But the game goes on. And then he takes off Luke Shaw, brings on Brandon Williams because he's gotten rid of two left backs, so he's got to bring on another left back. It was madness all around. And then the third goal, I've got to say, I don't know what Harry Maguire is thinking on that third goal. Basically he decides, I'm going to leave it. De Gea basically says, I don't know what's going on. This lack of communication, you think you could expect that if it was Dean Henderson because those two have not played so much. But with De Gea and Maguire, they've been playing together for a year and a half now, and they still make mistakes like that. It is. I mean, you can hear the anger in my voice because that goal for me was a real sucker punch because it just shows that it's a team that has absolutely no clue what they're doing on the pitch. And sometimes, and you can blame Ole for the first two goals. I blame him for the first two goals. I blame him for not changing it. But that third goal is basic defending. And you could probably only blame Ole for the fact that he picks that player. But you can't coach those things. You can't really coach common sense into a player. They get two jammy goals, very lucky goals. I don't think it was a penalty. It was shoulder to shoulder at best. We see them given at times, but that was not a penalty. They got lucky with it. The second goal that was scored was, it was two fortunate deflections, right? You get one from Pogba onto Maguire. Because Pogba's header is pretty crap, actually. It's pretty bad because it's just going on the ground. It's going to be an easy save or a clearance for Leipzig. But it takes Maguire on the head. It still isn't a problem because I think Lashi's got it covered. The goalkeeper's got it covered. But then ricochets of the hand of a Leipzig defender and then it goes in. So if without that hand, it doesn't go in. So, they got two deflections on a jammy goal. But then after that, and I think it was just one of those things where Leipzig were a little bit I think at 3-0, they got a bit overconfident. They thought, we'll just run this. We'll just run this thing. We'll try and go and win 4-0, 5-0. We'll try and embarrass them. And then they conceded that penalty because they had pushed too many men forward. The corner, United hadn't really been threatening on corners anyway. So I think they probably were a little bit, lax about it. But at 3-2, I think they realized, no, let's just wake up. We don't want to give this away. And so then they kind of tightened it up. And United didn't really create much even after that second goal. It was just a fairly straightforward game to see out for them. So well-deserved win for Leipzig. I think you have to say that. I think Nagelsmann got certain things spot on, and it's the advantage. Nagelsmann doesn't change his tactics, right? A good manager never changes his tactics, and you never do change your tactics. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer just seems to want to. It's almost an existential crisis between what he wants, between what the players want, and somehow it looks like a compromised arrangement, and sometimes it just shows that it's a compromised arrangement. And today was one of those days where he changed it up. You should obviously vary when managers say we're not playing for a draw. And I said this last week. I said if United go into this game playing for a draw, they're going to lose, because when you play not to win, when you try to play a game not wanting, where you've decided you don't care about winning, you lose, right? So you don't want to do that. But that's exactly what they did today. They played not to lose, and they lost. But then they had no intention of winning this game. They had no intention of winning this game by like actually taking the game to Leipzig. I'm sure there was some idea of what they would do with the ball, but they didn't have any intention of wanting to take the game to Leipzig. They were like, we'll just sit back, we'll wait. And once you give a goal away in the first 2 minutes, it completely kills the game plan, because the players that don't buy into it, and I'm sure there were players that didn't buy into it, or there were players that might have bought into it and be like, oh yeah, we've got 5 defenders, we've got all the security. Suddenly you don't have it. And players lose confidence. We've seen that with these players. These players are crap. They are very, very weak mentally, and it doesn't work with them. And it happened today. They lost. But I mean, you've got to talk about it. And I think there's a lot of blame, as I said, to be assigned. I think the biggest blame for this game today has got to go to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think he was pretty bad today. Tactically naive, incompetent, pathetic, whatever you want to use. To play 5 at the back in this game, fair enough. I'll give him that. Okay, it's a big game. You want to play 5. But then you add 2 defensive midfielders, particularly knowing that, the way Leipzig plays, it's complete suicide. It's tactical suicide. And the thing is, playing a 5-2-3 helped them against PSG. They won against PSG that way. The reason why that worked was, in the back 5 was very, very mobile, because you had Shaw and you had Tuanzebe in that. So there was a very mobile back 5, and then Telles as well. But Telles, Lindelof, and Wan-Bissaka played. But because you had Tuanzebe and Shaw, you had a lot of mobility in that back 5, which Lindelof and Maguire just don't give you. So it really, you have to overcompensate. Every time you've got to overcompensate because of those 2. That's the issue. The second issue is PSG are actually a very offensive team, but they don't press as much. Leipzig are an offensive team. They press very high up the pitch. So if you're playing a back 5 and a 2 defensive midfielders against PSG, it's okay, because PSG are not going to press when they lose the ball. They're going to sort of hold back. They're going to try and catch you. So it gives you opportunities to break. Even if you're playing with the 5-2-3, you've got opportunities to break. And any player, if you give me 5 seconds, I'll pull out a good pass. Right, like I'm pretty bad at football, but I'll pull out a good pass if you give me 5 seconds to settle myself. And I'm saying I'm using 5 seconds as an example. It could be 3 or 4 seconds, but if you give me enough time on the ball, I can pull out a good pass. So if you're not going to press, if you're going to be offensive and you're not going to press, basically what happens is when you lose the ball, the opposition has time to settle and pick a pass. And even though they might all be camped in, they can still break. When you are parking the bus, which is what United did today, and you have a team that is pressing you, basically what happens is, you're camped in your own half or even within your own third, and the opposition, even when they lose the ball, they're immediately onto you. They're forcing you backwards, or they're forcing you to make an error. And so you don't have opportunities to get out of your half. Having said that, today that didn't seem like an issue. I don't think Leipzig's press was much of a problem, but the issue was because United was so far, because United have such slow defenders, they need to have their fullbacks protecting them, so they go narrow. And because of them going narrow, it leaves a lot of space open for wingbacks. And if you have offensive wingbacks like Leipzig do, then you get lots of chances to score goals, which is basically what happened. So tactically, it was incompetent. And like I said, 20 minutes, you change it, right? It's not working. That's fine. You make a mistake. It happens. You change it. You try to change it. He didn't. He didn't change it. He waited till the 45th minute to change something. He didn't change the right things. He just let it drift. And, you can't blame anyone, right? You can't blame anyone for incompetence. And I thought today, he got it wrong. And that's why the title I said, is it time for Ole out? Because this kind of, to me, is naivety. And it's not just naivety. There's now issues of favoritism. And I've always said this, I put this out on social media. It's one thing to not be, to get things wrong. It happens. Once you start showing favoritism towards certain players, and we're all guilty of bias. I'm guilty of bias. I don't feel McTominay is as bad as people say he is. I'm guilty of that. But sometimes you've got to recognize, what? It's not working. You've got to change it. I've got to change it. I've got to try something else. I think he is biased towards McTominay, but that's and I forgive that. I overlook that because I like McTominay. I think he does. I think he has a job to do and he does it. I don't think there's anyone else in the team who can do the job that he can do. So even as a fan, I could probably give him a pass for that. I know some people don't want to give him a pass on that, and that's totally fine. I mean, I've said this before. The problem with Lindelof and Maguire is you need to drop one of them, but he can't drop either one of them because he can't drop Lindelof because Lindelof is the better defender, and you can't drop Maguire because he's the captain because he's got that that armband around his hand that's a freaking what do you call it, a jail sentence at the moment. It almost like, yeah, it's like a jail sentence for United at the moment. Tuanzebe is probably, and that is what Tuanzebe is one of the most highly rated defenders. I said this at the start after the PSG game. I said it. If Tuanzebe remains fit, if he plays if he becomes a starter for United, he will not only be the best defender at United, he will be England's number one going into the Euros. That is how good he can be. That is how good he has shown himself to be in small patches. It is time for him to start getting chances, but he's waiting in the wings because Maguire has the captain's armband around him and he cannot be dropped. And that's a big issue. And you can't drop Lindelof because Lindelof is better than Maguire. So what kind of message does that send? Right? It's a real headache to have. For him, and he's created this problem because he's given Maguire the armband. And a lot of people will say, well, he's a captain, change him as the captain. It rarely happens. Captains never get changed. At West Ham, Mark Noble's not a starter, but he's still their captain. So captains rarely ever get changed. You don't normally change captains. Maybe the manager comes in, new managers come in and they change captains. How many times in history have captains been changed while they're playing at the club? Usually they leave the club and then you change the captain, but generally you don't change captains at the club unless and this is where it's an issue because I think and again this is where again you have to blame Ole Gunnar Solskjaer because I feel he's scared of certain players. He showed a lot of favoritism towards Pogba when he came in. Even when he was playing really badly, he was kept on defending him, he kept on playing him. It took Pogba to get injured, and it took Pogba to and his agent to really talk to badmouth United for him to sort of sour on him. But he's finally seems to be getting out of that Pogba obsession now. But his favoritism towards Maguire, which is unrelenting for whatever reason. He has a sort of bias towards Luke Shaw as well for whatever reason. Luke Shaw, I thought, should not have played the full 90 today. Probably shouldn't even have started because you're expecting a player who's been out for a month to come into such a big game and play. It's an unbelievable ask for anybody, and to ask Luke Shaw to do that was just unbelievable. But he's got a favoritism towards Luke Shaw. And there's certain players, and once you start having favorites, what it does is it blinds you from obvious issues. And the other part that is also problematic right now is I feel he's scared to drop certain players. I feel he's scared to drop Maguire because he's already pretty much antagonized Pogba. He's kind of managing that situation. So Pogba has a bit of sway in that dressing room. Maguire has sway in that dressing room. There's all sorts of rumors of cliques in that dressing room, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be some sort of tension now between Maguire and Bruno because Bruno looks like he's starting to grow an influence at the club. And I'm sure Maguire sees him as a threat to his captaincy and his position at the club. And I'm sure Bruno privately, maybe he's not told the manager, but I'm sure in his mind he must be thinking, what is this? Why is this idiot the captain of Manchester United? Like what qualities does he possess? I mean, he's already berated Lindelof in public. So I know Bruno doesn't seem like someone who's going to shy away from stuff. And it looks like I'm pretty sure there's some issues there. But I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is just too afraid of dropping Maguire. He's too afraid of making changes, but they need to happen. But coming back to the players themselves, I thought today Wan-Bissaka was awful, and he needs to be dropped. I think he needs to be dropped. The issue is the next game is Manchester City, and you've got to kind of question: is he going to keep continuity? Is he going to make changes? I feel like he's going to stick with what's safe, and I kind of understand it. I will give it a pass that he'll probably start with Wan-Bissaka, with Maguire, with Lindelof, because you don't want to make too many changes. But to be honest, changes need to happen. And the problem is, if they go and beat Manchester City, Ollie will be like, oh, yeah, you know what? It's all fine. Like, there's just an off day. But it's not an off day. It's been too many. And so the problem now with the Manchester City, if it was Sheffield United, if it was Sheffield, the game after City is Sheffield. But if the Sheffield game was next, if you were playing Fulham, I would have said make changes, right? No, you got to change stuff. You got to bring in players. But the fact that it's Manchester City, seems like changes will be not forthcoming. But I don't expect them to win that game. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, Solskjaer is under pressure. So, the players are going to transform themselves into Ronaldo and Messi clones and going to do well. I don't think that's going to happen. I think City are going to run this one pretty easily because I think what Oli has shown is that he can spring a surprise here or there, but he can't consistently outsmart managers. And in the league, in cup competitions, in leagues, and in like these kind of two-legged ties, you've got to be able to think on your feet. You've got to be able to adapt. You've got to be able to outsmart people. And I don't think Ollie's capable of that. So I think he's probably going to go with the same tactics that he's tried to use in the last couple of games, and it's going to cost him. against City, because City will be too smart for that and they will end up winning that one. But we shall see. We shall see. That's still some ways away. I think the defense has a lot to answer for, and they've got to look. They've got to take a long, hard look at themselves in the mirror and really ask themselves, like, is this what they want at the club? Do they feel that they've got a future at this? Because do they feel that they can play this way at the club and get away with it? Because if they do, then they've got serious fans have got serious issues with that. And as a fan, I was disgusted and disappointed to see it. I thought McTominay was pretty bad. I thought Matic was okay, and people say he was okay, but I mean that's on opinion. I know. I thought he was all right, but at 2-0 down, it's a lot easier game when you've got a little bit of space in front of you in midfield. So you look a little bit better than you actually are. So but fair enough. I don't think Matic was had a lot to blame. I thought Rashford was awful. Greenwood, he had a few good touches and he looked good, but the problem with Greenwood is that inexperience. Because there was at 1-0, there was a moment when he had the ball and he could have played Rashford in. He could have squared it to Rashford, and Rashford could have had a nice shot on his right foot. Instead, he takes it with his left foot. I know he's left-footed, but he tries to take it with his left foot. But because for him the angle is so straight, he was never ever going to go anywhere with it, and so it goes tamely falls safe for the goalkeeper. I thought he could have passed it there. There were other moments where the inexperience shows. It shows on Greenwood. It shows on Rashford. In big moments they always seem to not get it, and it looked that way today. But ultimately, Leipzig deserved the win, and that's really all you can say. I think the bigger portion of the blame also has to go to Ed Woodward. And I think I said this at the start, when the summer window ended, we said it, right? In effect, OLE has been hung out to dry. And had he signed a defender, we wouldn't have these issues. Some of these issues would have been mitigated, right? They didn't sign a defender. Had they signed Sancho, today it would have been better. Cavani was always a gamble, and in the biggest game of United's season, which was today. Today was United's biggest game of the season so far. Where's Cavani? He's injured, right? Oh, we didn't know. He came to United injured, right? I mean, he's injury prone. Everybody knows this. Yet they signed him because they didn't want to, because they felt that they could get away with not signing Sancho. Then hurriedly we made a deal. But in the biggest game of the season, he's not there, right? He's out injured. So where's the backup, right? Haaland should have been bought, not bought. That's totally fine, right? Because Martial's out as well. So the players that should have been signed and weren't signed, I think not giving Oli the targets that he wanted, I think was a big issue, and it's disappointing. I mean, I'm not someone who hates the Europa League. I know a lot of people, to criticize the Europa League or make fun of it. I'm not someone. I've actually always loved the Europa League. I've said this many times. You can probably look at past videos. You can look at my previous comments as well. I love the Europa League. I like it. It's a wonderful competition to be in. The problem is, United, they had it in their hand. All they had to do was beat Istanbul away. That was literally the game that costed them. Because had they beaten them, they would have got 12 points, right? Because you've done the hard work of beating PSG away. You've done the hard work of beating Leipzig 5-0. All you had to do was get a win against Istanbul, home and away. You got 12 points. Even if you lose to, and then you've got a positive head-to-head. So even if you lose 1-0 to PSG, even if you lose 1 or 2-0, today's result would have put United through had they beaten Istanbul. That would have been enough. They would still have qualified on head-to-head. So literally that one result, and I said at that time, that's a massive 3 points that they dropped there. And it came back to bite them. It came back to bite them, and they've got to answer questions for that. I think man management is important. Tuanzebe, we have played one good game, and since then, have you seen him have 45 minutes against Istanbul, where he was taken off for really no fault of his own, other than the fact that his co-defender Harry Maguire is an idiot and an incompetent defender who has no idea how to be a defender, but most importantly has no concept of leadership aside from having that armband around his hand, which he thinks of it as some kind of privilege rather than an honor. He doesn't think of it as he thinks of it as some kind of validation for himself as opposed to responsibility. So he was hung out to dry in that game. He had played 10-15 minutes in the second leg and the second game against Istanbul, where he picked up a yellow card, so he couldn't play against PSG, and he played 10-15 minutes at right back against Leipzig, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So that's literally he's not even getting a big game time because of Harry Maguire. And so what's the incentive? What is the incentive for Harry Maguire? I thought when Tuanzebe put in that performance, I was like, now Tuanzebe's got to start. He's got to start against, because he's shown he can do it. Let him have a run. Let Maguire and Lindelof feel like there's somebody behind them who can take their position. And what does Oli do? As soon as Maguire is fit, he gets into the team. As soon as Lindelof is fit, he gets into the team. So what's the motivation for Tuanzebe to get better? What's the incentive for these guys to get better when they know that their place is already set in the team? I mean, that, it is baffling, and that's where I know I'm on the fence um about being Ollie in or Ollie out. I'm not going to say I'm Ollie out just yet because I don't want to judge him on a bad result. But if he loses to City, I think then again, and if playing the same way that he played today, if he goes out and loses to City, then I think questions need to be asked. But I don't think he'll be sacked if he loses to City. But I think if he loses to City, the questions will be there. If he loses to Sheffield, I really think he should get his job, have his job taken away from him. But but a lot of blame lies at Woodward's feet because he didn't sign a centre half that was needed. He didn't sign the right winger that we needed, because if he had a right winger, wouldn't have had to play a 5-2-1-2. Because imagine having, or even if you had even if you had to play a 5-2-1-2, you could play Sancho instead of Greenwood in that game. And imagine having Greenwood coming off the bench, having a game changer available off the bench when you need it. So it's little things like that. But anyway, the United now have to focus on the Europa League. The draw for that will happen. It's a sad state of affairs. A lot of people talking about the PSG game. I don't know, but if there was a racist incident, I applaud both teams for walking off the field, particularly if it was from an official. I think that's disgusting, and I think UEFA should take strict action against the official if that was found to be true. I don't think either team deserves, if they walk off and if UEFA deducts 3 points for PSG or for Istanbul. I think that's terrible. I think that's terrible. What I would like to see is probably both teams being awarded 3 points, if that's the case, because you got to take a stand at some point, and I applaud that. So I don't think I don't see PSG. I don't want PSG to be thrown out. I mean, in any case, even if they do get 3 points, PSG will still qualify because of a better head to head with Manchester United, so they will still qualify without any issues. But I don't want to see teams being deducted points because of these kind of issues. So if the game is cancelled, it's called off, give both teams 3 points for taking a stand. I think that would be my solution. But I know that's not how life works. But those are things, right? I mean that's just it's just sad to see that it still happens in 2020, happening from people that are supposed to be safeguarding the game. It is just very, very sad to see. But anyway, big news is of course Manchester United crashing out of the Champions League. We've got some big games tomorrow. Real Madrid could be next in line to be going out, but that will be a very, very interesting game. Real Madrid against Mönchengladbach. Like I said, I posted this as well. Imagine United and Real Madrid both playing Europa League football next in February. How about that? But I don't think it'll happen. I expect a lot of the 50-50 decisions will go Real Madrid's way, because I think UEFA are going to try to do whatever they can to safeguard the competition. Because if you lose Real Madrid and you lose Manchester United, you possibly Atletico Madrid as well could be going out, and Inter Milan could be going out as well. Imagine that, right? I mean, imagine Inter Milan, of course, not Inter Milan and Real Madrid both won't go into Europa League. Only one of them can go into the Europa League. The other one will be going home. But imagine a Champions League knockout stages that doesn't have those teams. And I know a lot of people are going like, oh, look at the European Super League, how, the European Super League idea is so stupid now. It looks so stupid now with all of these. No, it actually strengthens it. These kind of results actually strengthen the case for a European Super League in the minds of the clubs, because they don't want to be playing in Europa League. They don't want, to have these issues. That's why they won the European Super League. So their positions are always safeguarded. It's because they want these big games. For them, for them it's about money. It's not about merit. It's about money. So for these guys, it's if it guarantees them spots against in these big competitions against big clubs, they would be saying, you know what, this is why we need a European Super League, because we want Real Madrid to be playing in the knockout stages. We want Manchester United to be playing in the knockout stages. We don't need Shakhtar and Borussia Mönchengladbach playing there, taking spots away. No, we don't want Leipzig. Leipzig, well, kind of getting there to a big club, but we don't want Leipzig there instead of Manchester United. So those are things to be considered. But anyway, those are conversations for another day. Obviously, we're kind of getting a bit off track here. But final score, Leipzig 3, very well-deserved win over Manchester United, who finished with 2 goals, 3-2. And United Thursday night football will be back from February. Well, actually, it'll be back next week because we won't play on Thursday. But that's good warm-up. Next Thursday is a good foreshadowing and warm-up for what's to come for Manchester United in the new year in 2021. We'll be playing in the Europa League. And I'm smiling, but I'm not just smiling on the inside, but I'm just smiling on the outside. But Yeah, it's sad to see. It is sad. It is a sad day for Manchester United. But well, congratulations to Leipzig and Leipzig fans. I hope you do well in the competition. Hope you can go deep. You went to the semifinals last season, so hopefully they can go deep next season as well. For United, I mean, it's time for some harsh looks inwards. But the problem is, I don't see it happening. Nothing changes, and we'll know more. We'll know more at this time. I think next Sunday, I think will be key to see what has changed over the next 3 games. So 3 games by then, hopefully things change, and hopefully the manager realizes that he can't rely on this couple players because they suck. But anyway, that we'll talk more about that later. But enjoy the rest of your evening or morning. I know it's a bit of a tough thing to do, but no matter whatever time you're watching this, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.